Data Voyagers.
Somewhere right now, a server is running a job that nobody remembers asking for it. It is spun up months ago for a project that shipped, or maybe one that never did, and it has been quietly humming along ever since. Every hour it costs a little. Nobody sees it. Nobody turns it off because turning things off was never the exciting part. We do not fall in love with data because of the meter. We fell in love with the build. That moment, an idea becomes a pipeline, a module, a dashboard that makes the whole room go quiet for a second. And the cloud made that feeling intoxicating. It told us we could have everything right now, forever. Spin up whatever you want. Scale to the moon. Worry about the bill later. Well, later showed up. And here is the uncomfortable part. The instinct when the bill arrives is to start cutting, turn things off, trim the budget, treat the whole thing like a problem to shrink. But that is the wrong story because the goal was never to spend less. The goal was to know with the straight face what are you paying for? It's actually worth it. That is a different question and it is a harder one. For years, we bought capacity, more tools, more seats, more horsepower, all of just in case. The question we kept skipping was the simple one. Did any of it actually change the outcome? Did it help the business? Did it move something from business could point and say, yes, that actually mattered? This is not a story about being cheap. It's a story about value and about finally being honest about where it comes from. There is an even name for this idea now, borrowed from the finance world and dragged into ours. They call it FinOps. And it might be one of the most useful conversations our industry is now having loudly enough yet. Actually, I heard a joke a while back that says like when Jeff Bezos was the richest man in the world, and then he became like the second richest, and there was a joke saying, yeah, he forgot his EC2 instances running. So, hello, data advisors. I am Igor Alcantara. Oi, pessoal, and I'm always joined by my brilliant, dear co-host, friend, fellow Qlik ambassador, Angelika Klidas. Angelika, thanks for being here. Hoi allemaal.
Hey, hoi Igor en hoi allemaal. Fijn dat jullie er weer zijn.
Yeah, and we have a great guest today. So
Yes, we do. Yep.
So we have here with us today.
So our guest today is Sidney Drill. She is a Global Solutions Director for Data Analytics and AI at Qlik. And her world is exactly this: cost optimization, FinOps, and the shift of a lot of companies that are trying to solve a problem now, right? To make it right now. From selling more capability towards more delivering an outcome a customer can actually feel. We're going to talk about where the money quietly leaks out, what FinOps really means once you bring it into data and AI, and how you measure value in a way people trust. So Sidney, welcome to the Data Voyagers.
Thank you.
Great to have you
here.
here. Yeah, so before we actually begin with this amazing podcast, and I'm looking forward to this topic because we see so much leakage in money with tokens burning away and so on. So yeah, I believe this can really add value for our listeners and our companies behind it. So before we begin, just a few quick reminders. Make sure you subscribe to the Data Voyagers on Spotify, on Apple Podcast, or whatever you get for your podcast. And I'm really serious. Do it now. I mean it. This really will help us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can see the recordings because we have images as well to it, not only from a postcard point of view that you can listen to on Spotify, but you can see us actually also interacting with each other. Click on subscribe on YouTube. And there is really some good content there. Articles, podcasts, articles, web shop. We have everything there. But you can also follow our page on LinkedIn. Just look for us there. On Instagram, we have an Instagram page, the Data Voyages podcast, and this and much more on our website, datavoyages.net. Show your support, follow us, share our content, and send it to your friends, family, and colleagues. So before we are about to start, let's hear a few words from our sponsors.
Your data knows things your dashboards don't. Government agencies and healthcare organizations generate more data than most. Claims, case records, patient histories, service metrics. Most of it sits scattered across systems that weren't built to connect and clean just enough to file, not enough to act on. IPC Global works with public sector and healthcare teams to change that. We bring data together from across your organization, clean it properly, and build a consistent, trustworthy foundation that makes analytics and AI worth investing in. We work on Qlik, talent, and AWS, so we can meet you where your infrastructure already is. If your data isn't ready, your AI won't be either. Visit ipc-global.com to know more. It's ipc-global.com. From being here, so Angelika, would you like to get us started?
Yeah, sure. I'm looking behind because I hear a truck. So for listeners that are meeting you for the first time, Sidney, how would you describe what a global solutions director for data analytics and AI actually does?
That is a great question, and it's still one that I have trouble describing sometimes. It's not a straightforward role. I really think about it as a mix of product thinking, product management, sales enablement, big part of it, and then actual hands-on building. And my team's job is to take patterns that we see across customers and from our partners, kind of think of those common problems, repeatable use cases, and we could talk about it a little bit more, and turn them into solutions that our sales team and our partners can pick up and run with. So, some days I'm in Qlik Cloud building a prototype. Some days I'm on the call with a sales team validating a solution we've come up with. Some days I'm working with partners to ideate what we should build next. No 2 days are the same, much less no 2 weeks.
Well, neither is mine, so that's cool.
Yeah, it keeps things exciting. It's more fun that way.
Yeah. So if you would say, what is the maturity of time that you are spending on the different tasks? What is the biggest chunk of time that you consume? Yeah.
So we're still an early team. And so I think a lot of our time is probably spent in the product, like we'll call it the product management, but really the ideation and figuring out the processes. I mean, what is it now? It's June. Our team was founded right around Connect. So that's about 2 months. So we're still figuring out exactly how we work. And so it's not just how do we build a solution, but also how does our team work together? And then the second half, I'd say, is a lot of ideation with partners. So we're really getting to know different partners across the Qlikosphere and what are the solutions that they think Qlik is really well poised to solve, and how do we do that together?
Oh, great. Thank you. Well,
Great.
Igor, over to you.
Yeah, actually, before my next question, I have another one. Is like before you end up to this role. Tell us a little bit about you and your history with Qlik.
Yeah, it's a lot. I've been here for a long time. So I joined Qlik originally in 2015. I was working in field enablement for services. So back then that was our education support and consulting practice. And I helped our sales team understand what that meant. So when we first launched what's now Qlik Learning and used to be Qlik Continuous Classroom, I helped our sales team launch that. Then I moved into pre-sales. So I kind of got obsessed with the technology and wanted to do that full time. So I moved into pre-sales and was working across primarily life sciences customers. So Johnson & Johnson, Novartis, Novo Nordisk, some of these huge accounts, and helping them figure out how to use the technology, which was such a fun role. But after a couple of years there, I decided to try my hand at sales. And I took over a patch in the DC, Maryland, Virginia region. So I was the account manager myself and got to kind of lead my little account team, working with partners. And at some point, I'd been at Qlik for 8 years at that point, and I wanted to expand my network a little bit, expand my, what roles I'd been in. And so I actually decided to leave Qlik and get an MBA. So I went to the Dartmouth School of Business, Tuck. Was there for 2 years, graduated a year ago, just about exactly a year ago, and decided to come back to Qlik in this new capacity. So I've been with Qlik for 9 to 11 years, depending on how you count it. And I've spent a lot of time working with customers, a lot of time working with partners, a lot of time just across the organization. And I'm really happy to still be here.
Interesting. Now, in your, I'll call it like your season 2.
Yeah, season 2. Yeah.
In Qlik, what exactly pull you toward like FinOps and cost optimization as a focus area? Because it's not where most people in analytics start out. Actually, we want to, if you let us, we want to run free and consume all tokens in the world, but of course we can't.
It's like you talked about before. We want to just consume them to the moon, and then the bill comes later. It's the problem with cloud. So coming back with an MBA, I really wanted to come to Qlik and help solve a strategic problem. And when we looked at what our customers kept asking, there's 2 things. A, what do our customers keep asking? Asking. And B, what is Qlik well positioned to do? And since I first joined Qlik in 2015, we expanded from this analytics company to an analytics integration and AI company. So we do a lot. And our customers are still saying, man, I'm spending a lot of money on AWS. I'm spending a lot of money on Snowflake. I'm spending a lot of money on Databricks. I'm spending a lot of money on Qlik. And I don't really know where it goes. And because we have this data expertise and this analytics expertise, it seemed like we were well placed to sit in the middle and help our customers with that. FinOps, historically, to your point, has really been an infrastructure conversation. It's about VMs, cloud VMs. It's Azure, it's AWS, it's EC2. And only little pockets of people were talking about the data side of that. So once I kind of opened the door and started looking at the data side, the AI side, it just things came out of the woodwork. People were so excited to start that conversation, and it's really just gone from there.
Yeah, I think I did some projects in software asset management. There you saw the same problem, right? People having, for example, Microsoft Visio or Microsoft Project, which are separate modules from the subscription, and you have to pay for it extra. And then people ask it once, they use it once, and then they forget it. But every year there is the same amount of money that it has been paid. So those hidden costs really true mattered. So we did, and I did some measurement projects for that, and we used Qlik for it as well. So that's cool.
It's funny from my time in pre-sales. I was spinning up VMs, and I still get the occasional email from Microsoft like, "Hey," and I have to go in and every time and check and be like, do I still have a VM running somewhere that I'm paying for from 2018? The answer is no. I just keep getting an empty bill, but I always have to check because it's
imagine that bill.
Oh my gosh!
I can imagine. And the problem is getting bigger and bigger. And it's not only, I think, from a business point of view, but it's also from a personal point of view, because and my children love watching series and TV and movies and so on. So I have Disney. I have Netflix. I have some more. And if you add them all up together, it's about 80 euros a month, which is a week shopping things, right?
Yes.
So I told my kids, well, guys, I'm trying to manage the costs here a little bit. Which ones are you using? And they said, we use it all. I told them, are you really sure? And I just disconnected one, which I thought they'd never use it. And they indeed never used, because I never heard them complain. But it's the same system, right? You have to manage the costs, and that's it. Yeah.
And when it's your money, and I also think that's a great example. And my husband and I are buying a house, and we're going through the same practice. Like, we're really looking at our budget closely, and we're like, that's $15 a month for Amazon. Oh. But I think it's also a really good point, because when it's your money, you're paying attention to it, because you're like, man, 80 euros a week, that's groceries. But when it's the company's money, you're maybe not, it's not as personally invested. So how do we build up the systems and the infrastructure and the care for an individual to actually care about the company's money too, because company doesn't have a blank check. We gotta profit somewhere. Everybody does.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I think, the biggest problem for this moment. And I'm grateful. Thank you. That the world of IT and finance has been brought together to manage those costs, because usually it's a black box.
The conversation, everybody else is like, oh wait, we should be doing this full time. So what it changes for us, and it's I'm having the conversations, but it's really how do we help our sales organization and our partners have those conversations. We're moving from a capability conversation like Qlik has best-in-class associative analytics. We know that. Or Qlik has change data capture capabilities, and moving to what that actually means for the customer. So for example, your finance team is spending 2 days a month reconciling reports that don't agree with each other, and it's a real waste of time. We could do that for you in 2 hours. That's more of a business outcome. And then really tying that more to like, what does that mean? And so now your finance team is able to do this. So at the end of the day, how do we help them do that? It's still change data capture in our best-in-class associative analytics, but we're focusing on, it's a different entry point. We're focusing on what can we do for you, as opposed to how amazing is our product. And what that looks like in a customer conversation is we go from kind of the first way, the capability method. It's like, oh, okay, this seems really cool. And then they kind of nod politely and ask for pricing. Whereas in the second one, where you've actually driven home the business outcome and you found something that they're like, yes, that is a challenge and we want that outcome. They lean in and they're like, I can see that. Or like, man, tell me more about how you can do that for me. And that's the conversation that starts to feel really good. And again, I was in sales, I was in pre-sales. So I love that feeling when you're like, yes, we're having the right conversation now. We're not just talking about how awesome our technology is.
Yes, I can see that that the world is shifting a lot, right, at the moment. That's really true. And we can talk for hours about that, but that's a total different discussion. So my question would be, when you frame things as a customer-centric versus a sales-centric, where do you see companies most often slip back into the old habit without realizing it?
Ooh. So yeah, I know. I mean, I'm guilty. I think I've noticed two big trends, or at least two moments that tend to happen. One is demo culture. So again, I was in pre-sales. Like, I love our technology. I think it's so cool. But often the moment that you open up a demo environment and you start clicking through features, you've lost that thread. You've lost that why we're having this conversation. Like, I think that in the best business-led conversations, the demo is not coming up until a couple calls in, because you don't want to distract from the business outcome with how amazing the tech is. And the second one that I'm hearing a little bit, or that I've noticed, is what we'll call like the marketing statistics speak. So our tool can save you. It's going to be 10. We'll give the example, like it's 10x faster. Well, why is it 10x faster? When is it 10x faster? Tell me more about 10x faster. How is it 10x faster in my situation? So what I call kind of the marketing stats. I think that the moment you slip into marketing stats, instead of being specific to the customer's business outcome or to their specific environment, you start to lose the customer. So, be careful about demos and be careful about marketing stats. Try to be more specific to the customer and really focus on that business outcome. That's what I think.
Interesting. You mentioned business outcome. How do you measure that when you're talking or present to a customer in a way that the customer actually trusts? And what makes a good business outcome? Because a lot of times, actually, a lot of my work is discussing, implementing like machine learning, in Qlik Predict mostly, use cases. And one other thing most people forget, and we define in our framework before even collecting the data, is like, what's your business success metric? What you want to, if 1 year from now, if you want to discuss if this was a successful machine learning project to your business, what are we measuring against? And that's usually the question from the customer perspective, especially, is the most difficult for them to answer.
Yeah.
Because it's I never thought about it. It's a simple question like, why are you doing this? And most of the time they just thought they should, but they don't actually have So how's that? Actually, I'm asking for my selfish kind of personal reason as well. So I want to hear your perspective.
Yeah, it's a tough one, and honestly, it's one we're still figuring out how to do as a team. And like ultimately, you want it to be their number, not our number, and it goes back to those marketing stats, like, oh, our customers save 20% when they do this. Well, that's marketing. That's not specific. And so, one thing we've been trying to do is get more specific in the technology. So not just say to a customer, if you adopt the solution, you're going to save 20%, but say, here are the 5 places where we see these, savings. Let's talk about your specific use case, excuse me, and figure out which could be most relevant for you, because maybe, you're really good in this department or this area. And so you're not going to save money because you're really, really efficient. But over here, that's something you didn't think about, and that's someplace. So in reality, it's going to be 5% savings overall. So we're trying to work on. ROI calculator is not the right word, because I think the ROI calculator can get a bad rep for being too like, put in your numbers and we'll tell you all the money you'll save. But kind of a more specific and more real version of that ROI calculator. So when we talk to a customer and say, here's the business outcome that we're trying to deliver, they trust us because we've done the co-discovery to get to exactly what it is. And we've also pointed out, like, here's where it's not going to impact you, because we've had that discussion about what your process looks like right now. So it's an imperfect science. We're still figuring it out. Once we nail it, Igor, I'll get back to you and I'll give you the secret.
I think it's very difficult
Yes.
to find that. From my perspective, we always should start with a big analysis of the company, trying to find the mission, the vision, the strategy that they have defined, find the critical success factors that are necessary to achieve that vision, and build from there, and find the quick wins to actually win. And that's always my approach to enter in a company. I'm not really a salesperson, but I'm more the business focused consultant. How they say it in Holland, like you are a selling consultant instead of a sales rep or something.
I like that.
But I think that's the approach to actually find the elements that you can add value for the organization, and the product is next.
Yep. Yeah, and that's
mirrors and
it's been interesting for us because we're really getting into like process mapping. So for example, one of the solutions we're working on is contract leakage. And so going into contracting and contract agreements and figuring out, like, what are the 10 places or 5 to 10 places where there is leakage. And again, every customer is probably going to be different as far as where it is. But now we can say, okay, well, you've got 3 out of 10. Okay, let's talk about those 3. That's what we're focused on. We're not focused on the 7 you're already doing very well. But I agree. It's, Qlik is going through a whole thing right now where we're, mapping out our strategy, and it's an exciting time. But you have to, business outcomes are important at the end of the day. The rest of it's kind of like just nice to have.
Yeah. Great. So if you look at a customer who has brought a lot of capability over the years, but he is not sure they're getting the value of it, where would you tell them to start?
Look at your utilization. What are you at? And it's like the example you were talking about with streaming platforms, Angelika. Like, what are we actually using? Because at the end of the day, and Igor, you mentioned it earlier, like, we're constantly adding new capabilities, we're adding new users, we're adding this, that, and the other. So before you make any decisions about cutting or enablement, because there's 2, it might be that this is really valuable and you just need to use it more, or it might be that this isn't valuable and you're wasting your money on it. Look at utilization, pull that first. Are your analytics driving outputs? Is it just reporting that nobody's looking at? And once you look at utilization and look at what's being used, it's pretty easy to then figure out where the value is leaking and what you need to take better advantage of and what you should get rid of.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a very good advice. It's one of the reasons I like the fact that for the Qlik Trust score, one of the things is it's how popular a data set is. I mean, there's a called popularity. It's called usage. But yeah, if you have a data set is perfect, all the quality metrics like 100%, but nobody's using. So now talking about the term FinOps, and it's interesting that I might maybe just not paying attention, but it's kind of recent. The first time I heard about the term, maybe a year and a half ago, or something like that. And I noticed when I see different people, even especially outside of Qlik, talking about it, they mean different things.
Mm-hmm.
How you define FinOps when you're talking with the data or when analytics team specifically?
Yep. It's a good question. And I actually don't think the definition changes whether you're looking at virtual machines or you're looking at data pipelines. FinOps for me is it's knowing how much you're spending, where that money is going, and then having the ability and the knowledge to act on it. So for a data team, that might mean looking past just what are we spending on infrastructure, what are we spending, and are generally taking that cloud bill and looking at, which pipelines are the most expensive, which queries are burning credits, are those queries delivering insights, are they tied to applications that are being used, which AI workloads are being are running unchecked. So it's visibility, it's attribution. So visibility, how much are we spending? Attribution, where in the world is it going? And optimization, what can we do about it? And I'm not making any of this up. There's an entire FinOps foundation that came up with kind of the very formal definition, which I'm not using. And if you're interested in FinOps and, go look up FinOps Foundation, and there is so much content, and they're very lively. So it's actually quite interesting. They take a be a dull concept and make it exciting, in my opinion.
Yeah. So we can add the link to the messages that we always spread.
Absolutely,
so
yeah.
That's very interesting. Yeah, well, I think truly believe it's a necessity at this moment. FinOps and managing the cost, managing shadow AI in this case as well.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you look at the conversations around FinOps, a lot of them grew up around cloud infrastructure, right?
Yep.
I mentioned it already, shadow AI, but what changes will be there when you think of data, AI, BI, infrastructure, token burning, and
totally.
so on?
Yeah, I mean, it gets more complicated and it gets more urgent. With cloud infrastructure, it's fairly predictable. We always have those virtual machines that have been running since Sidney was in pre-sales in 2018, and it's been racking up a bill. It hasn't, I promise. I turned it off, Qlik. But it's fairly predictable. It's compute, it's storage, it's egress. With data, it gets a little more complicated because now we're looking at a SQL query that can, it can blow up on a bigger capacity. But AI is really where it's become more urgent. And Igor, you mentioned kind of FinOps seems to be coming to the data world more recently. I think it's really AI has driven that, because with an AI model that has no guardrails, instead of blowing up your budget in a month, it can blow up your budget in an hour. It's crazy how much you can consume if you don't have the guardrails in place. And we've seen a lot of big examples of that happening. Was it Uber that ran out of their forecasted AI spend in 3 months for the year? And oh my God. And so it's a lot more urgent, and therefore we have to get on top of it. So it's changed the conversation. And when I mentioned the FinOps Foundation earlier, they just announced at their FinOps X last week, 2 weeks ago, that they're spinning off a new foundation, the Tokenomics Foundation, because it is such a big challenge and such a big problem, and there's so much investment in it that they felt, but it's different. It's different than the predictable spend, that they felt they needed to really invest the people, the manpower and woman power, in specifically that topic. So I'm very excited to see what they come up with, because man, do we need it.
Yeah.
I love that name,
Tokenomics.
Yeah, yes. Oh, we have to do a future episode about it. You already invited. Interesting. And what I noticed, and also talking to working with customers, is that there's a lot of waste of money and things. A lot of times it's simple. We train the customers like how they can better use AI tools, so they have a more strategic, smart use of the capabilities. But I want to hear from you whether you see organizations. And what's most dangerous was quietly, you don't even see it clearly, wasting money in their data and analytics stack. And the stuff that it goes unnoticed, and if it goes unnoticed, it can go for years.
Yeah. Again, my Microsoft bill. No, yeah. And if we take AI out of the conversation for a second, like there's still so many places we're wasting money. And I love, again, I mentioned it kind of like open into this world of people within the Qlik sphere who are working with FinOps and using Qlik for that. And they give me all these examples of like, oh, here's something I found. And so a couple places, or maybe a few places that I've heard, one are these zombie pipelines or kind of warehouses that nobody turned off. And I had one customer give an example of they had a big deployment. They ended up shutting down this project. They turned off prod. They didn't turn off dev and QA. And so for over a year, dev and QA were still just kind of doing their thing, but nobody was touching those. That's wasted money. So the second are those over-provisioned warehouses that are just always on, and they don't need to be. There is we think about it with AI, but just generally, like, we tend to want the biggest warehouse possible for the solution. And then if we're not using it, well, we're paying a lot of money for a big EC2 instance or a big, Snowflake pipeline that isn't being used. And then the third that's pretty sneaky is duplicate work. You've got 5 teams that are pulling the exact same data from the exact same source. And it doesn't really show up as a single line item anywhere. You have to do some digging to find it. But when you map it, what we found is that could be like 30 to 40% of compute is just the people, same people, different people pulling the exact same data. Basically, I said, here are all the ways that we're wasting money, not in AI. Let's take AI out of the picture. Here's some examples. So now you can just clearly segue to, all right, if we bring in AI, what happens?
Yeah, if we bring in AI, what will happen? Because I at the organization where I work now as an advisor and training around data and AI literacy, one of the topics is, of course, adoption, right? Adoption. And people want to use Microsoft Copilot, the paid version, premium, and they want to do AI, and they have Fabric and Foundry, and oh man, and I told them, well, there is a solution that I know that has everything in one package for one price. But guys, just blow your money for now. But they're burning money, and it's a waste, right? It's a waste because it gets expensive very fast. So forget about my organization. What's your advice for teams who want to experiment with AI but are nervous about the bill?
Yeah, well, your example, we finally moved past token maxing, which is this term, this like ridiculous term. I don't know if it's Gen Z combined with business lingo, but it's this kind of like just spend it all, and the more tokens you burn, that better. We've moved past that because we've realized that somebody has to pay for that. And so I can give you an example of really how we're doing it at Qlik, because Qlik is trying to be, Qlik is promoting that we are your AI, your trusted foundation for AI, your trusted intelligence layer, but also we are an AI-driven company. So what we've done at Qlik is we've set a hard budget ceiling before we started. And we've kind of rolled out access to employees, but with a cap. And so, for example, we're using Claude, and every employee gets $30 worth of tokens for Claude. And some employees will not hit their $30 worth of tokens. It's $30 per month. Some employees will not hit their $30, but they have access to it. It's in a governed place. We're all using the same product. And then you have employees like my team who are blowing it out of the water. After a week and a half, we're like, hey, we need more. And so then we have a team that's reviewing that on a case-by-case basis and expanding it. But every single employee is still capped on their usage. And so you never have to worry about, like that developer who has a blank check, who prototypes something, they forget about it, and suddenly it's thousands of dollars in surprise invoice. If you put a cap at day one and then you start to increase, then you are much more able to forecast, and you also just set up that governance. And so you're not going to have that surprise like crazy invoice. So, TLDR, too long didn't read. You want to let everybody experiment. That is good. You should give everybody access. That's my opinion. But you can set it up with governance and frameworks at the beginning and then build from there. And that way you know who's doing, like who's using it, who's not using it. And also you've put a cap so that nobody is going crazy with it.
That's really the thing that I'm working on from an AI governance perspective. That's also one of my projects that I'm running. And you need to set up the guardrails up front.
Yep, guardrails. Thank you. That's the word I'm looking for.
First, that's the guardrails are first.
Yeah.
And they didn't at first. And now there are 59 tools used, free and paid, while we have one tool that is mandatory to use. That's the place to go. And now suddenly everybody wants to have a premium account. But if you look at the cost from that side, it's also very high. So that is something you really truly have to manage, because an organization can burn so much money if you do not have the guardrails in place. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
When I was at, and I believe I saw both of you there, when I was at Lund for the Luminary event, and I know you talked about Luminaries last week, but when I was there last year for the Luminary event and we talked about FinOps, this came up because people were like, well, how do you like, oh, well, we're not letting anybody use AI yet, or we're capping it, but not and somebody goes, oh yeah, we tried to do that at our company. And so we just noticed that everybody started expensing their own little accounts. Here's a Perplexity here, here's a ChatGPT here, here's a Cloud here. I needed it.
Yeah.
And like the person who had originally been like, we're not letting anybody use it, was like, oh my God. So we might just have people like running away. Not only are they just putting our data wherever they want, but they're charging us for it and we don't even realize.
Yeah.
But
it's really crazy. Yeah, it's really crazy.
You have like Qlik has been really big on, we kind of from the get-go, when we started rolling out Claude, and we also use GitHub Copilot, and it's team by team basis, but rolling out an AI policy as well that says, hey, if you're using Qlik data, this is where it needs to be used. If you're talking about anything proprietary, you can do that in our Claude instance because we have a governed instance. You cannot do that in your personal ChatGPT. But if you want to ask for a recipe, or you just want to like, hey, help me write a LinkedIn post, sure, you can do that in your personal Claude or your personal ChatGPT. You can't charge for it. We're not paying for it. But making it clear, not, like if you put in absolutes, like you may not use anything else, people are just going to break the rules and then you create chaos. So instead we're and we're still learning, like we're figuring it out, but trying to say, hey, we're going to support you through this, this, and this. Here are the guardrails. And if you want to do more, like go off and explore, but that's a little bit more on you.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. I see where I am as an advisor, the most crazy stories. Like one of the biggest municipalities here in the Netherlands, they prohibited everything like ChatGPT, Copilot, and everything was unsafe, blah, blah, blah. They had their own large language model internally. But what do people do? They have the ChatGPT app on their personal phone.
Exactly.
They send an email to their private email, put it in, or a document, put it on the phone in the ChatGPT app or whatever, and then the results they send back to the municipality. It's crazy.
Yeah,
but it's to govern. You have to make guardrails and explain, and that's the story you have to tell. I think about 200,000, maybe 300,000 times. The guardrails, you have to explain them. This is what you can do, and this is what you can't do. Be aware of the risks.
Yep. And it's exactly, it's that balance of guardrails and flexibility. Like you have to have some freedom and you have to have the guardrails in place. And if you can find that balance, because if you tell people no, they're just going to break the rules. Because we're used to it now. It's like, it's so much easier to write a LinkedIn post, with a little help from ChatGPT than to do it myself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I will say I liked M dashes before ChatGPT did. So just because there's an M dash in something I wrote does not mean that AI wrote it. I just really like an M dash. I digress.
I remove them. I said in my profile, no M dashes, please.
Now we
But
can't
they're
tell
still
each
in
other.
there.
What's
They're
real,
still in
what's
there.
not.
Yeah. So
Funny
Igor, I believe
that
you have a question, right?
I think we already discussed the question, but just a little comment on top of what we're talking about. Yeah, it's like in the US when they had the prohibition era, like when alcohol was banned.
That went well.
Yeah, I mean, people didn't stop drinking. Actually, they drank more, but uncontrolled,
Yeah.
and they basically only gave more power to the mobs. So that gave power
Yeah.
to like Al Capone and all of those guys. It didn't solve the problem, so they had to come back. So yeah, so you need to teach people to be responsible, and so have to. So I agree. Of course, it's not like the Wild West.
Yeah.
But it has to be, because if you prohibit everything, they will find a way.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't prohibit, but
We can
manage.
get into a whole
Govern.
conversation about drinking and how Europe does it so much better than the US. But
Okay. Do we have a last question, Igor? I think. So yeah, the
Yes,
last
we
one.
do.
Yeah. So if a listener wants to build a little more FinOps discipline into their team, into their organization this quarter, without a big formal program,
Yep.
be pragmatic. What's one habit you suggest they pick up?
tagging. Tag every pipeline, tag every query, tag every AI job. We talked about FinOps earlier. It's visibility, attribution, optimization. And that attribution is so important. It's unglamorous work, but it's so hard to catch up on it. Like the earlier that you can start tagging, it makes those budget conversations so much easier, because now you can see not just, okay, what are we spending? Where is it going? Who's using it? And if Igor's using all of our spend, but he's delivering this kick-ass value, excuse my French, it's worth it. And if it's going into the ether, it's not worth it. And so without tagging, FinOps is just guesswork. So tag.
Yeah, tag. Okay,
Interesting.
great.
Yeah, I learned a lot from this. So thank you very much. And so, and remember, folks, that server that we talked about at the beginning of the show, the one that quietly humming away, costing a little every hour that nobody remember asking for. It is still running. It was running this whole time we were talking.
Igor, you should have turned it off.
Yeah, I know. So, and that's kind of the point. The meter that never stops, whether we paying attention or not. What change is us. Whether we walk past it or whether we stop and ask the honest question: is it worthy? No, it's not. Sometimes it's not, sometimes it is, but it's not cheap. And sometimes it does something that a person, somewhere can feel. And that is what stayed with us in this conversation. FinOps sounds like a finance word, like something that belongs in a different department with different people. I'm creative. I should not worry about it. But it really is. It's something that we should all pay attention, and we should all be worried, because the bill has to be paid. And learning and actually the whole, I had a kind of recent, like a month ago, article in Data Voyages where I was discussing how the adoption of AI and AI doing a lot of things that we considered humans before. Actually, I had 2 articles about it. Forces us to be more human, like do things that AI could not replicate. But still, at the end of the day, someone has to pay the bill, because it costs. And if you don't pay attention, if you don't tag, if you don't monitor, it gets out of control, pretty quick. So in order for us to be able to keep doing our work, to keep innovating, to keep doing all the magic we do, it has to be sustainable. And that's what this conversation was about. So, Sidney, thank you very much. This is the kind of conversation we wanted to keep going, even after we stop recording, and we invite our listeners to have their conversation internally in their companies, and also in your private life, because we're using AI in our private life. Like the whole time, if you people watching on video, the whole time we were talking, I have my AI twin that actually he pays attention to my whole day, everything I do, summarize it, remind the thing that I said that I would do it, I didn't do it.
Wow. I need one of those.
Yeah, it's so great. I'm kind of beta testing this. Is so great.
He's nerdy.
I was gonna say it's like to be real nerdy. It's like a remember all from Harry Potter. You can see my Harry Potter books on the shelf.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I have them too. Yeah.
Yeah, every time someone has like books on the background, I always try to see what is that book. Do I have it? Yeah.
These are my books. These are my husband's.
Okay.
I'm the nerdy one.
And so thank you very much to be here with us. And it was a great conversation.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you
My
so
pleasure.
much. And I think from the software asset management perspective that I worked on for so many years, and from the FinOps perspective, I think I'm going to specialize in FinOps. I think it can help with my governance section, AI governance, data literacy, and that's a good package, I think.
Yeah. Well, Angelika, if you ever want to chat more, I'm here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you guys have a lot to talk about. We all have. And Angelika, as always, thanks a lot for being here. It's always a pleasure to have you as co-host and as a friend, most especially. And to all of our fellow data voyagers, thanks for spending this time with us. I know time is a luxury more and more often than not. So thanks for spending that time with us. Go build something worth the meter, but be aware of the cost. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
See you next time. Ciao, ciao.
Data Voyage.